Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Musicast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
Now, here we are at the very top of the show. I have breaking news, breaking Tim news.
All right, what's the breaking news?
I'm pleased to say that I did get Metallica tickets for Virginia Tech Lane Stadium.
Or in sound, what's some sound that makes it sound like a radio zoo?
So the tickets went on sale at 12. I had it open from about 11 and I was hitting F5 to refresh, and I stepped away and I stepped back at maybe 11:35 and I hit refresh, and it immediately put me in some kind of waiting room affair. So I had that spinning and spinning. It got to 12 and I was still in this queue waiting room type thing. And then I think it was about 12:15, 12:20, something like that. It let me in. And there was all the tickets were available, all the price points, pretty much anywhere I wanted. I went with the $140 ticket.
Okay.
And I tried to get I got a little aisle one, and it's sort of as low as I could get it in like the bleachers. I didn't want to go standing on the ground because, one, I'm old, and secondly, my wife would never tolerate standing up for 4 hours to see Metallica.
I feel you, Hannah, because I wouldn't. When I went with Jennifer, just a simple plan, we stood. And when I say, Tim, I'm only in my mid-30s, and my feet hurt for like 3 days after that.
Yeah,
so, no, thank you.
Hannah's excited about seeing Metallica, and being in the bleachers, she's all about that. But yeah, especially she's short as well, so she never gets to see anything. So.
Poor Anna.
Yeah, we got there. One of my co-workers, he got a standing ticket. He tried to get the pit, but the pit was sold out. He was all about the pit, but he's got a standing ticket. And there's a few other people I know got their tickets. It's very exciting. I think at this point, even though they haven't had the general sale, I think it's actually now sold out.
I went and looked. It was sold out after we talked the other day, Tim.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. You have to wait till next year. I think it's May of next year it happens. But the fact that Metallica, the mighty Metallica, are coming to Blacksburg 25 minutes from my office, 25-minute walk from my office. My plan for the day is to work in the morning, park up at work, and then walk over to Lane Stadium. That is my plan.
And Tim's not kidding when he says, like, literally. And there's restaurants you can have a drink on the way down to.
Oh, it's fantastic. I can exclusively reveal that Metallica will be staying at the Inn at Virginia Tech, which is a very nice hotel, which is on that campus. And I'm assuming that's where they're going to stay because it's right there.
I mean, that's probably 100% true. We don't even have to Google that. It's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, it's that or a Holiday Inn Express. I mean, it's going to be the Inn at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is that one Clay Street Inn or something. One of those two.
Yeah, but a fancy 4-star hotel that's on the same campus as Lane Stadium, I think that they're probably going to stay there.
Yeah, but I have a feeling there'll be some extra security or something. Well, maybe they'll just sleep in their bus. I don't know.
They're Metallica. They're not sleeping in the bus.
Okay, gosh. They could if they wanted to, though.
They could if they wanted to. I'm sure touring at the level that they tour at, it's all private jets and hotels.
No one's ever in that bus anyway.
No.
All right, what's the other bit of music news, Tim?
Okay, so I have two things. So one, firstly, Ringo Starr. So Ringo Starr is an older gentleman. I believe he is 82 at this point. Mm-hmm. And he was touring with his all-star band. Now, I was lucky enough to see Ringo Starr and the all-star band in Roanoke a few years ago, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I think, really, for the price I paid and the view I had, it was better than the Paul McCartney concert I went to. But anyhow, he was touring with the all-star band, and unfortunately, he's cancelled the last 2 dates of his tour.
That when I was looking at music news, I saw this, and I said, I don't want to talk about that one because it kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, so Ringo, he's supposed to be playing in Philadelphia, and then he was supposed to be playing at Music City. I can't even remember the name. What was the place with the carpet, Joy?
The place with the carpet. Oh, the New York City Rockettes. New York City Music Hall. Radio Hall. Whatever. Radio City Music Hall. Radio City Music Hall. There we go. I found it.
Let me tell you, Joy, it's been a long week. But anyway, that place.
I was so close 3 different times. All right, continue. I'm never going to live that down.
Yeah. Radio City Music Hall, he cancelled that date, and he also had a date in Philly as well, which is cancelled as well. They said he's come down with a cold and is consulting with a doctor, and he's advised to cancel the 2 remaining shows and get a rest. So we hope that everything's okay with Ringo, Mr. Richard Starkey. I'm sure it is. He's just having a little bit of a rest, bit of a cold. Happened to anyone, but we hope he's okay and we wish him well. I mean, he is so spry for 82. I mean, you see videos of him, and it's just unbelievable.
So I'm going to segue into Tim's music news because he did this. This is perfect into a new little segment. And then Tim can get other music news. But my little thing is I was thinking of new segments. And I was thinking we could do like a music fact of the day or like, did you know this? And to insert some weird sound here, Tim, or make something that sounds cool. But I found this little fact and I thought this is interesting. What song, Tim, given that we just talked about Ringo Starr, that does help with the clues. But what song do you think is considered the most covered song of all time?
It is, I think it's Yesterday.
It is Yesterday by the Guinness World Record book. Yesterday is the most covered song of all time.
Absolutely. Paul McCartney woke up having dreamed that song. So he played it on his piano and then he kept asking people, is this someone else's song? And they're like, no. And he's like, oh.
And he's like, well, it's about to be mine. And I'll make all the money until 2024. Anyway, but yeah, Yesterday, Guinness World Record book. There you go. All right.
Fantastic.
What's next, Tim?
Okay, well, I have one more music news item. So this follows on from music newses that we've done and the big music news episode we did last week. So the Foo Fighters, Foo Fighters had finished their tour that they were doing, mostly North American dates, and they finished it. However, they had another date in their calendar, which was a festival. And it was Connecticut Southside Music Festival. And they were supposed to be playing this Saturday, September 28th. Or I say this Saturday, but you'll be hearing this in a few weeks' time. So they have dropped out of that date. They made an announcement on Instagram that says the Foo Fighters will no longer be appearing at this weekend's Southside Music Festival.
Awkward.
Please check the festival website for more information. Now, is this a Dave Grohl and his philandering getting in the way of band business?
I think so. Because I've seen, and given this maybe Daily Mail, I can't even think, it's like TMZ, the American equivalent of Daily Mail, you would say, Tim?
The Daily Mail is horrifically awful.
TMZ is too.
Yeah, I would take TMZ over the Daily Mail.
Oh, gosh, that's saying something. They're that bad?
TMZ is sensationalist, celebrity trash type journalism.
Of course.
The Daily Mail is dodgy politics.
So you think at least TMZ stays in its lane with just making it about celebrities, whereas Daily Mail kind of messes with your mind politics. Okay, that is dirtier.
Yeah, Daily Mail is a terrible newspaper.
I don't think we have an American equivalent then, because usually the more tabloidy type, they stay out of politics. I mean, Trump is an exception, but he's a celebrity. You know what I mean, Tim? So it's hard to like equate him. I don't know.
I would say, I mean, whatever you watch and whatever you believe in is your business. But I would say the closest thing that the Daily Mail aligns to is Fox News.
Fox News. I knew that was coming. Okay. Well, we'll move away from that. But anyway, what were we talking about, Tim? I lost that train of thought.
Dave Grohl.
Oh,
you see this about Dave Grohl?
So I've seen some headlines from these such things like the Daily Mail saying Dave Grohl and said wife are having a struggle.
I would imagine so. I mean, he did a bad thing. I mean, it's not like, like I said, they had an arrangement. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of these people, but it just seems like he's
the entire world knows.
Yeah, it's just everyone thought Dave was the coolest guy, and now this, and it's. Ugh.
Well, and he had like, I wouldn't say like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like his career had reached a lot of its peaks in the last few years. A lot of people were like, you know what I mean, Tim? Like there was a resurgence around him, for good or for bad. It feels like people were Team Grohl, so it didn't help. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure there will be a period of quote unquote healing, and then they'll go back out on tour again. But I don't know. We might not see the Foo Fighters on the road just for a little bit.
Sometimes you got to take a break.
Absolutely. I mean, they were gigging pretty hard, especially when they sort of relaunched after we lost Taylor Hawkins. But I don't know. We will see what happens.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for the music, and that's all I can say.
There we are.
All right, so I will take it from here. I do have a little bit of music news. Sorry, guys, we got lost there. I forgot where we were going with the statement and why I was discussing things. That's literally the definition of me and Tim's podcast. Is it actually about music, or do we just rant until both of us forget what we're talking about? Who knows? But anyway, so my bit of music news is Stevie Nicks announced she has a new single coming out. Tim, did you hear about this?
I didn't. That's exciting. I mean, I'm glad that she's still making new music in her later years, shall we say?
Yeah, so apparently she posts a little teaser clip, I'm assuming on Instagram. It didn't say specifically, but it's social media. So I would say it's probably her Instagram, which you can view online, and it contains the lyrics. I want to teach you to fight, from a poem Nick shared back in 2022 called Get It Back. I want to be the lighthouse, bring all you together. It goes, bring you out in the stormy weather. I want to teach you to fight. So that's kind of like the lyrics she shared. The first part was the poem, so it's kind of like a comparison to that. And basically, she is encouraging Americans, as Tim has, to register to vote in the midterm elections. And she says, at 74 years old, I can honestly say I'm just as worried about politics as all of you. And this song seems to be one of her kind of odes to motivate people to get out there to register to vote.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, Stevie Nicks, we appreciate you and your music. And as we know, Stevie Nicks, you chose never to have a child, but you always say all of your songs are your babies.
There we go. Very interesting choice of words, and we'll leave it at that. All right. So I wore an official T-shirt about tonight's episode. It's Joy's episode, if anybody was wondering. Absolutely. Not that anybody can see this, and this isn't a video podcast, but Mickey is wearing a mummy costume on my shirt, holding a Halloween pail, because tonight's episode is about Halloween music.
Halloween music, yeah. I think by the time this drops, it probably be around the Halloween season.
And if it's not, Sid will hold the episode until it is, because we will make music magic happen. I don't know if that's really music magic, podcast magic, whatever.
Yeah, so anyway. I will go into Buzzsprout and I'll change the date that it posts. Look at me.
Basic technology. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the history of Halloween, because I feel like it. And it's very on brand, because those who don't know this, Tim got a routing version of Stevie Nicks when he came in. He's singing about thunder only happens when it's raining, because such a good line, by the way, everybody. But because it's really thundery and rainy where we're at.
Absolutely. There's a hurricane down in Florida, or heading towards Florida. And we're lucky that we don't get much hurricane type weather. But what we do is just get torrential rain.
Exactly. And Tim says, if you ever wondered what it feels like to live in England, this is it, Joy.
Well, I mean, not like this. I mean, it rains in England, but not the sort of rain that we get around here.
I know. I'm just joking. One time it had been kind of like rainy, but not like this torrential downpours for like a week or two when I was complaining. And Tim's like, this is what it's like to live in England. And I don't know why, but that was so funny to me. Nobody else gets that joke. But anyway, so it's kind of rainy, a little bit cooler, giving fall spooky vibes. So that's why I picked Halloween. And also just because I like Halloween. So for those who don't know, I'm going to do a little bit about where Halloween music comes from and just how Halloween became a holiday. Yeah. So Halloween music has been, a traditional pagan thing, because that's where it came from in Western Union, Tim, Western Europe.
Yeah, but back in the days, they were doing money transfers. It's absolutely fantastic.
That's what the pagans were doing, just money transfer. No, Western Europe. And basically, it was to mark the beginning of Gaelic winter on the medieval calendar. But as people would get together, they dress up, light bonfires, do all the things. And it was an attempt to ward off spirits crossing into, or I don't know why you'd be warding them off when they're crossing into the afterlife, but that's what they say. I feel like if they're going towards their afterlife, I don't know that you need to ward them off, but we'll call the people at Western Union later. In the 8th century, though, Pope Gregory III declared that the 1st of November was a time to honor All Saints. And I'm sure you guys have heard that. It wasn't long before All Saints Day simply merged with the folk traditions that I was just talking about with the medieval Gaelic winter. And that spawned All Hallows Eve or Hallowed Eve. You've heard all those terms, which in turn became Halloween. So that's how
Fabulous.
there's kind of a mix of a Catholic and a mix of a pagan holiday, which if you have, that's, they say it's kind of complicated. That's how they came to be. So music in these times was influenced by the origins of the festivities. So mostly like traditional folk song, things like that. Now, a lot of the songs that were written for Halloween were handwritten and they were kind of handed down over time. And, with the pace of time, no one's listened to them. But Halloween was popularized through immigration to America because of Irish immigrants, the whole Catholic side of it. That's how it became pop. But what I understand, I found this interesting because I understand that in America, Halloween is much more popular than in England. Would you say that, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, certainly growing up, Halloween was never a thing. And even probably almost until I left, it was not a super big thing, though it was becoming bigger. But I get the impression now it's not quite the same thing as it is in the US, but it's starting to get traction, or it has traction.
Well, from what they're saying is a lot of the Americans, like big Halloween traditions, came from Irish and English. So I find it interesting that it wasn't that popular. But they said that in America, it became popular between 1920 and 1950, and that's when it became more of a commercialized holiday.
Yeah.
And you've got kids trick-or-treating and Hershey advertising on TV, their Hershey bars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And of course, once we've morphed into commercialism, we get music.
Yay!
But this is a song I wasn't familiar with at all, Tim. But apparently it was recorded for a movie called Star Spangled Banner, which I could only guess what that was about. And this is from 1943, and it's called The Old Black Magic by Glen Miller and Orchestra. Does that ring a bell to you, Tim?
I think I may have heard it. I mean, I'm familiar with the Glen Miller and Glen Miller Orchestra, famously that song In the Mood, which is a famous Glen Miller song. It was sort of Second World War, sort of big band type music type thing.
And this is what this is. So it's very much of a simpler time. It doesn't have like the commercial edge you're going to hear in the other songs we're talking about. But apparently it's kind of spooky sounding. You've got orchestra sounding jazz, soulful tones. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he's reflecting on an occasional family affair. And it's kind of creepy. But they define this when I was looking on different lists, because I went through about 4 or 5 different lists. And this was one of the very first people would put it at the Halloween party because it's kind of spooky sounding song.
Yeah.
So that's what, if you guys haven't heard that, I would say if you want to have a Halloween party or you're curious to add music, look up That Old Black Magic by Glen Miller and the Orchestra. Because I wasn't super familiar with it. And Lord knows I have no idea what the film Star Spangled Banner is about. And I can tell you I don't want to. Anyway, Tim, do you want to watch the film labeled The Star Spangled Banner?
Really, no. But as you know, a film is not an art form that brings me a lot of joy.
Let's be honest, Tim. Even if it was, do you really want to watch the art film The Star Spangled Banner?
No, not when I could maybe watch Flash Gordon again or Future World.
I mean, who doesn't like a Flash? All right, so this one is one that is a favorite of mine, and I have very distinct memories of this song, like throughout my entire life, and I want to talk about this, and it's such a weird song to have very distinct memories about, but it is 1958's Purple People Eater by Shelby Woolley.
Yes, so Hannah has a CD called Wacky Weirdos.
Yeah.
And this was a CD she had growing up. And I found a copy on I think eBay or Discogs or something, and I bought it just so she could have another copy. And it very prominently features the Purple People Eater on that album.
So I feel like Purple People Eater was a movie, and then it was another movie again in the 80s, but don't quote me on that. Like me and Tim have said, we don't know movies. But I distinctly remember my mother like playing this when I was younger, like this being a conversation, us talking about the movie. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like I remember this being part of my childhood. And so when I got older, when I started working at Kroger, which I've talked about many times, the songs at Kroger live in my brain rent free forever, which is just a grocery chain because I feel like I say that and those people who weren't on the Fruit Jam don't know what Kroger is. But it's just a grocery store that I was an HR manager at. Anyway, Purple People Eater around Halloween time would come on once an hour like, and it was so made work so non-serious. You'd be sitting in there trying to interview for a job, and in the background, one flying purple people in there would just be banging in the background, and it lives rent free in my head. Like the amount of times I'd be like, "Oh, this person, I have to write up an accident note because they got a glass bottle drops in their foot and they're bleeding out, and one-eyed flying purple people eating playing in the background." And so I can't not think of that song without thinking of those moments.
Yeah, it's one of those songs that I could see would be played over a store system. And like I said, their loop isn't that long because they're assuming the shoppers are going to be in and out in 25 minutes.
They would add the Halloween songs in every so often, Tim, in October. And I worked there for multiple years. So I don't know why this was their favorite. For some reason, Tim, and it's just such a non-serious song that it like paints the background. I remember one time we were having a huddle in the back of the store, and we were going over like customers' comments, and we got a really bad one. And the next thing you hear is one. I will never forget that. There you go, guys. That's my memory of the Flying Purple People Eater song. I have no idea what this. Have you ever seen the Flying Purple People Eater for the movie? I've seen him visually. I've seen like graphs of him.
I think so. Probably not, but I think so.
Fair enough. All right. So for those who don't know, the song has a few pop culture references in it, and it's just very danceability. There's some chipmunk voices, blah, blah. It's a fun song. All right. The next one that I'm going to talk about is you cannot have a Halloween playlist without this song. It is the most known played everything song related to Halloween, The Monster Mash by Bobby Boris Pickett in 1962.
Absolutely. Again, another one from the Wacky Weirdos album. But yeah, the Monster Mash is fantastic. I mean, this is a song I remember growing up as well. I mean, it's a timeless classic for that time of year.
So I learned something while doing this. It was written. So if you guys don't know about the monster, it's about a bunch of monsters going to a dance party, which is so cute and fun, but kind of weird if you really think about it, if you went to a dance party and all these monsters were there with you. But the Monster Mash was actually a spinoff of this song, Mashed Potato Time. I learned that tonight, Tim.
Well, yeah, because there's that dance, the mashed potato.
Yes, and so the whole thing was written based off of that. That's where the Monster Mash comes from. And that's what the monsters were mashing because they were doing the mashed potato.
There we go. I was working in the lab late one night. I don't know the rest of it, but yeah, like that.
Something about that. That sounds like the Monster Mash. But I mean, when it's about Halloween time, I mean, they did the Monster Mash. I mean, I can't think of anything else that's more. And what's funny about this is you have to wonder what royalty rights Bobby Pickett's been getting for the last however many years since 1962.
Exactly. It was a graveyard smash.
And it's so stupid, but it's so perfect.
It is so catchy.
I mean, it really is. And I can't think of a song that I know that if I met someone and they didn't know who the Monster Mash was, even like universally, given you don't speak English, it might be hard, but I feel like it's a universal song at this point.
I think so, unless someone's about 23 years old, because I routinely lunch with people in their early 20s and you tell them cultural references and you just get like a blank look.
Well, what was it? So I was on live with on TikTok Live. For those who don't know, Joy has a actual TikTok following that's separate of the podcast, but it's a true thing. And I was on live one night and my older sister was talking to me. And what was it I said? I said something about like MTV and I can't remember. I don't remember what I said, but there was a reference on the on the live where I said something about MTV and her daughter asked her who it was on my live. My niece asked what it was. I don't remember what it was about MTV, but something related to MTV, Tim. I made an MTV joke, and her daughter asked what that was.
Yeah, I mean, my rule of thumb is like when we hire people at work and they're younger, what I like to do is show them a picture of a black Trans Am. Not like a kit, but like the one from Smokey and the Bandit. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, you see this vehicle? What film does it come from? And most of the time they have no idea. We hired a guy who's 23, 24, and he said, I can't remember the name of the film, but that's the one with Burt Reynolds. I was like, that's all I need. Thank you.
The
Thank you
guy
so
with the
much.
mustache.
Yeah.
He was definitely helping somebody run things he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. He gave me enough of a pointer that I felt he passed the test.
Oh, good old. I mean, Burt Reynolds really is what makes the movies. So fair enough.
Oh,
Fair enough.
100%. And the Trans Am, of course.
Well, Tim, the next question should be ask them to sing the Monster Mash and see if they can.
Well, next time I'm in the break room, I'll be asking young people if they know the Monster Mash.
You should be like, are you okay with being recorded? And if they are, record it and make it an ad for the podcast. Who knows the Monster Mash? All right. Now, the next song is controversially maybe not a Halloween song, but could be a Halloween song. So I made him take some creative liberties because there's only so many Halloween songs. But
Sure.
I picked Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Ulster Court. Tim, what is wrong with me tonight? Blue Ulster Court, 1976. They're cult, guys. They're cult.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say BOC or something.
Yeah, Blue Oyster Cult. So this song is probably the biggest hit they ever had. I mean, they had a hit with Godzilla as well, but Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, that is sort of their standout track that most people would know. Now, this is famous, this track, because it's featured on the Saturday Night Live skit where they're going on about more cowbell with Will Ferrell and Jimmy Fallon. Now, I was not aware this was a thing. I'd heard people reference it before I lived here.
And I had
no idea what it meant. And even before I lived here, I went to 30 Rock in New York City, 30 Rockefeller Plaza Center, and they had a gift shop there in the NBC store, and they actually sold T-shirts with the more cowbell guy. And I had no idea what that meant. And it was only, I had to look it up to see the clip.
That's funny, Tim. I just assumed you would have known.
No, I mean, Saturday Night Live has probably been sporadically shown in the UK, but it's not a cultural phenomenon. It's not something
whereas here, people are quoting the Saturday Night skit the next day.
Yeah, well, it's like Wayne's World. So like Wayne's World was a big film in the UK, but basically nobody knew it came from a Saturday Night Live skit.
Unless you're Charlie.
Well, it's different, no, because he would be living here.
I just realized what you were saying. I thought you were going to say nobody knew the movie here, but never mind. I know what you're saying. Yes,
the film was popular here and in the UK.
That makes sense. I talked ahead before I heard what you actually said. That makes sense.
In the UK, it was seen as a standalone piece.
They didn't realize it was part of an SNL skit.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to be like, nobody loves it here. And I'm like, unless you're Charlie. He loves that movie, Tim. You're wrong. But no, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like now it's probably become more easy for them to see them because of the internet and YouTube. But back in the day, there wasn't so many options for them to see SNL skits, I would think.
No, and I mean, I don't even know if SNL is still relevant to the same degree.
Not. I feel like in America, sometimes around like political things and stuff, you get a lot of good jokes that are seen everywhere. But I can't say the last time I saw an SNL. You know what I mean, Tim? Like, it's not like something I look out for.
Well, I pride myself with SNL. I've been to the NBC studio tour at 30 Rock twice. And on both of those tours, they don't actually take you onto the floor to the SNL stage, but they take you up to like a viewing platform where you look out onto the SNL stage and the audience there.
Yeah.
I've done that twice. I have seen SNL from top to tail twice. So the problem is if I go and watch another SNL episode, it's going to break my record. So I'm happy where I am.
He has to travel first, Tim. Hannah, if you're listening, Tim needs another trip.
That was for my birthday. I'm going on a trip next week.
Yeah, you're going to Vegas.
And I was either going to go to New York City or I was going to go to Vegas, but I chose to go to Vegas instead.
Don't you have somebody's birthday that you have something come up that you're supposed to be doing in Vegas too?
Well, it's Sammy Hagar is having a birthday bash, and I'm going to his gig at the Palms.
Okay, well, that's very important as well. Tim's got some cool things coming up, guys.
Yes, I'll have a full report on your desk when I get back.
And it's like every one of my friends. So I'm always the only. So it's funny that I know Tim's birthday is coming up. And those of you guys who don't know, that was the hint there. But like my friend Molly's birthday is coming up. My friend Jennifer's birthday is coming up. I'm always the only summer baby. Always by myself. I don't know why, but I feel like the September, October, November is all the birthdays for me.
One doesn't want to dwell on this, but it's very cold at the beginning of the year.
I know. Exactly 9 months ago. I get it. We don't need to point it out, Tim. So back to Don't Fear the Reaper. I'm going to leave them with this. It was actually written by the lead guitarist, Donald Rosier, while picturing his own early death, but has yet to come of the Reaper, blah, blah. And so much he still remains. This has happened twice, by the way. He's seen his own death, but the Reaper didn't come. And he still remains well and still, and he's performing regularly at 70 now. So
there we are. Yeah, Blue Oyster Cults have had a little bit of a resurgence because they have a keyboard player guitarist called Richie Castellano. And that chap, he was the one who famously did the Bohemian Rhapsody multi-part video on YouTube, amongst other things. And he has a YouTube channel called Band Geek.
And I also feel like they fall into, we talked about like ELO, how they have like that cult following and everybody thinks they're the best band ever. I feel like there's been kind of a resurgence with Blue Oyster Cult and that court. Why is that cult so hard for me to say tonight, Tim? I've called them everything but Blue Oyster Cult. I give up, guys. The word's not
BOC,
coming.
Joy. Just call them BOC. It's fine.
BOC. So I don't know why that's so hard to say. But anyway, I feel like they've gotten a resurgence and there is kind of that cult following of them.
Sure.
I feel like it's very simple. ELO and BOC. It's quite like, because a cult is so hard to say. Anyway, with that being said, the next one is a song that I've had many thoughts on this podcast about. I still have many thoughts about, and still makes me kind of angry, but I love this song. It is Werewolves of London. Warren, and how do you say his Warren? How do you say his last name though?
Zevon. Warren Zevon.
What Tim said, 1978. I've never actually said his name out loud. I mean, I've seen it written, but I mean, when have I ever said it out loud?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, though? If you ever went to say a word out loud that you realize you've never actually spoken?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the case. Now, the interesting thing about Warren Zevon, this
Tim's like, I'm just gonna let that be. All right, what's next?
The interesting thing about Warren Zevon is that this song, for one, has the same chords as Sweet Home Alabama. It's D, C, and G all the way through.
Yeah, that's why I have so many. I have so many thoughts about that guy, Kid Rock, and his version, and how it's his stupid song about Sweet Home Alabama, but the opening is Werewolves to London. So when his song comes on about summertime, I don't know if I'm getting Werewolves to London, and then if you keep letting it play, you don't know if you're getting Sweet Home Alabama. Anyway, continue.
It's a whole thing. The other thing about Warren Zevon is that he was Paul Schaefer's fill-in on the Late Show with David Letterman, where Paul Schaefer was away or touring or something. Warren Zevon always would be the one who'd be filling in for Paul. He was very good friends with David Letterman. And there's an incredibly sad tale where he knew he was dying. I think cancer took him in the end. And he appeared on the Late Show for the very last time. And he died not long after that. And they did the show, and they dedicated the whole show to him. And then when the show wrapped, he went up to David Letterman's office and presented him with his number one guitar. And he said, I won't be needing this anymore. I want you to have it.
That's very, so sad, but
very
heartbreaking.
sad. Very sad.
Wow, Tim. Well, anyway, I was just going to yell about Kid Rock, but now you make it sad. I just love Werewolves of London. I always say in London, but I know technically it's of London. I just hate that, like, it's the same intro. And I distinctly remember getting into this with this guy. And I still, because we've talked about how many times I hate Sweet Home Alabama on this podcast. When this song came out, I was a freshman in college and I was studying music as my minor. So I was around a lot of music snobs. You know what I'm saying, Tim? I'm just gonna tell you this. Like, you know, they were just music snobs. And I remember he was like, well, you know, it's the same chord progression as Sweet Home Alabama and Werewolves in London. Like he said something super prestige to me, like no one else would get it. So of course Kid Rock would use that. It only makes sense. I'm like, I get why he used it. I'm just mad he used it because I don't want to hear him sing, and I get excited because I think it's the other song. That's not why I'm mad at this. Like, I distinctly remember this mansplaining. I'm sorry, Tim, I hate to use that term, but this dude was straight up mansplaining because I was like, I get why. Like, that's not, do you know what I'm saying, Tim? That's not the problem. The problem is I don't want to hear Kid Rock.
And that is fine.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, everybody. But no, it distinctly stands out to me. And that's why this song always has a special place in my heart, because I remember that moment. But also, How do you think Kid Rock had to get? Do you think they had to get rights to both songs because they're so
Yeah,
similar?
absolutely 100%.
Why did they give him the right? But anyway, moving along. All right, we're gonna go to another song. This is a Hannah reference because she loves clapping, but I don't think there's any clapping in this, but you'll get what I mean in a minute. It's the Steve Miller Band. They have lots of clapping songs. It's Abracadabra.
Oh, this is fantastic. It's got an absolutely great solo that I could teach you how to play.
So this is from 1982, and apparently, I didn't realize this, it was inspired by Diana Ross. When Steve Miller met her on a TV episode of Hullabaloo, I don't know what that is, but we'll take their word for it. The song currently sits pretty in the 90s Billboard charts 100 of all time. I don't know why this fact went into that, but basically, he met Diana Ross, and that's how we wrote the song. They didn't explain why. I don't know how Diana Ross, maybe because she's magical, Tim?
I don't know. Maybe she had that aura about her.
But I don't know why the fact went into that, but that's what it is next. It was like, it's pretty. I'm like, that's not related to Steve Miller, everybody. But yeah, do you know what the show Hullabaloo is? Does that ring a bell to you?
No, it's probably like some magazine chat show type thing, I would imagine.
I would think so. But anyway, it really feel like, though, that's Abracadabra is also one of those songs that got like 47 different remakes up. And it had a recent remake. Eminem, who I know Tim is not going to know this, but he does know at least who Eminem is, had a recent song that comes out, and it goes, Abra, Abra, what to reach out and grab you. And there's different parts of it that are pieces of Abracadabra from the Steve Miller Band. And that just came out a year ago.
I was not aware of that. Anything to do with rap
Shocking.
music is not my cup of tea.
Really, Tim, do you want to tell the people about your most recent experience in the rap music world that you were telling me earlier today?
So I'm doing the 1001 Albums Challenge with our listener, Megan, and today was Public Enemy, the first of the... We'd had Run DMC, which is okay. This is Public Enemy from like the late 80s, and it's borderline unlistenable. I mean, if that's for you and you like it, enjoy it, but it was a 50-minute slog. It was a chore to get through it. I couldn't wait for it to finish. It just... I don't know. That genre of music is not for me.
It's a hard listen. Like, not only is it like it's not like your classic rhythm, you know what I mean, to a song type thing, Tim. It's also like some of the material is hard to listen to. Does that make sense? Like the stuff they're talking about can be really hard to digest.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a lot.
The only saving grace, if there is one of the songs has a sample of the song Flash in it.
Of course. That's what Tim picked up on.
Yeah, and then and subsequently Flavor Flav has become America's favorite uncle. You know, somehow he's managed to do that.
He was doing something with the what are the sports things? The Olympics this year.
Yeah, it's the Olympic women's water polo team. Apparently they couldn't afford to go to the Olympics for equipment because they couldn't get sponsorship, and they were all having to work like 3 jobs to make money. And Flavor Flav knew somebody and found this out, and he bankrolled the whole thing.
Well, to be fair, he was on that TV show Flavor Flav gets somebody, I don't know, some romantic show on VH1. And I can't tell you one Flavor Flav actual song. I don't know. Did he ever actually do music, Tim? I'm not sure.
Well, he was in Public Enemy. He's the one who goes, boy, and what time is it? Band. Yeah, that's him.
And he wore a clock around his neck. That's all I know about him.
I believe he still wears timepieces around his neck because that's his trademark. But, you see him at the Olympics and footage from the Olympics, and he's like him and Snoop were like America's favorite uncles. And I mean, yeah, that's how it's turned out for them. But this kind of music is not for me. I fear there's going to be more of this, and I'm going to struggle with it.
Yes, but you're a better person for it, Tim, in some way, I think, right? Is that what they're telling you? I don't know.
No, it just reinforces the fact I'm not a fan of rap music.
I was trying to find some overseeing, it'll be better. Tim's like, no, I just don't like rap music. All right. Anyway, the next one is a song we talked about 1,000 times, but it would not be a Halloween playlist without Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Yes.
I almost said Mackle.
Well, Thriller, I mean, I don't think it was released around Halloween, but I mean, it is
It was not.
so iconically Halloween at this point. The famous video, which has since been upscaled into 4K, which we covered on our 4K episode. I mean, everything
Yeah.
about it is just perfect for a Halloween playlist.
Well, I mean, the whole thing was it was made to be like the music video is a horror thriller, and so like I mean, Tim's right, and I can't think of someone playing a Halloween playlist without Thriller being on it.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And the best thing about Thriller, well, there's lots of good things about Thriller, but one thing I always love about Thriller, the famous rap by Vincent
Hmm.
Price, so iconic. Rod Temperton, who wrote Thriller, because it was originally called Starlight. It was Starlight, Starlight, Sun, and it didn't quite work. So they changed the words to Thriller, and of course, then it became Is What It Is. They was on the way to the recording session, and Vincent Price was booked for the session. And Rod Temperton gets in a cab on the way to the studio, and he remembered he hadn't written the lyrics out or even come up with the lyrics for Vincent Price. So in a 25, 35-minute cab journey, he scribbles out the rap that Vincent Price does. And there you go. And the rest is history.
There you go, everybody. I mean, it all makes sense. But to be fair, I mean, I just think I like thrillers, so I had to put it on here. And for those who don't know, it came out in 1982, and Tim hit you with one of the best facts. All right. So the next one is one that is a song filled with controversy, and this person might not be viewed as like the greatest person in the world anymore, but the song is iconic and it gives me Halloween vibes. So I said Ghostbusters theme song by Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah, Ghostbusters is fantastic. This is such a great song. Ray Parker Jr. was a session guitarist before he was a solo singer singing the Ghostbusters theme. He famously played guitar in Stevie Wonder's band. And that footage of Stevie Wonder on Sesame Street doing Superstition, which is probably the greatest version of Superstition there is, and it was on Sesame Street. Ray Parker Jr. is playing in the backing band. And also the track off Talking Book, Maybe Your Baby, has a very prominent guitar solo in it. And again, that is Ray Parker Jr. And I think somehow he got involved for the Ghostbusters film. He had a few solo albums prior to that, but he didn't quite have the same exposure. But Ghostbusters is the thing that really pushed him into the mainstream. Now, in the UK, some years after the fact, he had another single called I Don't Think Man Should Sleep Alone. It was a sort of a ballady type song, but he never really ever peaked the same peak he had with Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I'm going to say in America, I don't think I've ever even heard that title before. So you guys got more than we got. So while I was saying that though, and Tim knows this, we've talked about it before, there's some legal pursuits with this, but just a little bit of background on the song. I learned this today, Tim. So Lindsey Buckingham was apparently interviewed on Music and Words, a retrospective, and stated that he was actually approached to write the Ghostbusters theme song originally, based on his successful contribution of the song Holiday Road, which is on National Lampoon's Vacation. But he actually declined it. So he missed the opportunity, and I thought that was kind of interesting before the song came to be. Now, the songwriter and the producer is Ray Parker Jr., which leads into what happened. He was sued by Huey Lewis due to the fact that the melody is supposedly copied. Supposedly, I'm going to put that in parentheses because I don't really haven't thought about it. Primarily the bass line of Lewis's "I Want a New Drug."
That's correct. So I Want a New Drug is in the key of A, and Ghostbusters is in the key of B, but it is incredibly similar. Now, Huey Lewis was originally offered the Ghostbusters theme tune, and he was too busy with Back to the Future, and it was too close to Back to the Future, so he declined it. And I don't know whether there was ever a demo that somehow was floating about that the studio had. And then Ray Parker Jr. comes up with this song that sounds exactly like a Huey Lewis song that's on the album Sports. And you're quite right. Huey Lewis sued Ray Parker Jr. And because the Ghostbusters film was so huge and there was so much publicity, they settled out of court. And part of that out of court settlement was an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So
that's the next part when he goes out on VH1. Yep.
Yeah. So neither party were allowed to talk about the settlement or the court case. That was it. Zoom, end of. So what happened is Huey Lewis went on behind the music on VH1, spoke about the court case and the settlement. So Ray Parker Jr. counter-sued Huey Lewis and won for breaking the NDA.
Yes. And so it was a 2001 episode of VH1's Behind the Music. If you guys haven't seen it, I mean, I've probably seen quite a few of those. You can Google it. It's on YouTube. I looked at it when I was doing some research for this episode. And basically, he just said regarding his case when someone asked him, Parker said, I got a lot of money out of that. Lewis said it was at least 30,000. I don't know. Depends on what you define as a lot of money. Because I'm thinking if Ray Parker Jr. is saying I got a lot of money, I'm thinking like hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
$30,000 doesn't sound like that much to somebody like Huey Lewis.
No.
So I don't know. Are they both lying? I don't know. But Lewis did say he got at least 30,000 in an interview to a Dutch television called NPO.
There we are. Well, anyhow, it became a whole litigation type mess type thing. But I will say that the Ghostbusters song is absolutely fantastic.
It is. And I have, if you guys have never heard, there's quite a few different songs where they've made mashups with it on YouTube. And there's some really interesting mashups of this. If you've never went on the Google machine and found them, I highly suggest you do around the Halloween times. It's very fun. For some reason, it's one of those songs that seems to mash up well with everything.
Must be just the beat or something.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to say it's generic, but I feel like it's just kind of got that groove to it. All right, so the next one is a little bit obscure, but I know Tim will know this song because it's Tim. This is Feed My Frankenstein by Alice Cooper from 1991.
Absolutely. It features in the film Wayne's World, in fact.
Yes, speaking of that, where earlier I misthought Tim was going to be like American, so I'm like, unless you're Charlie. Charlie loves that movie. But the song is very... I mean, I don't want to say gross, but he's talking about eating the listener.
Well, you know, it's Alice Cooper, the pioneer of shock rock himself.
I mean, I like the whispers of he's a psycho with maniacal laughing and things of that.
Yeah, it's a great song.
It really is.
Al Pitrelli plays guitar on it, plays a guitar solo, etc. But yeah, famously appears in the film Wayne's World.
Well, there you go, guys. I actually really like this song. I feel like it'd be fun to see live. I don't know why. I feel like they would play it up if they even performed this song live. I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure Alice puts on a good show, and he's got one of the greatest shredders out there right now, Nita Strauss, playing guitar for him. But I don't have a great desire to see Alice Cooper at this point.
I don't know, but this would be a fun song to see, but I don't feel like I want to go to like a whole Alice Cooper concert. Does that make sense, Tim? Like, I want to see this song, but I don't want to. But it'd be fun, and it does make me think of Halloween. Of course, probably because it says Frankenstein. But the next one I'm going to pick is from a 1993 movie that I love. This has been redone 1,000 times. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. That's the song. This is Halloween. I'm assuming, Tim, have you watched The Nightmare Before Christmas, or do you know what Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas is?
I know what it is. I've never seen it.
Have you heard This is Halloween, this is Halloween?
I have, because Hannah played it for me a few years ago, and I never heard it before.
Well, it has Danny Elfman and Marilyn Manson, which is a name you've heard. It's just basically like the perfect Halloween song. It's literally telling you this is Halloween. Yeah. And it's been redone by every pop punk artist in the world. Does that make sense, Tim? Like, they had to do their own version of This Is Halloween and add some kind of hard rock spin to it. So there's quite a few versions of it. I am not as big of a Nightmare Before Christmas fan. The movie, I've seen the cartoon quite a few times actually. But the album, like the actual playlist, Tim, if you're just looking for something, you want to find something fun, or if you come across it at like a thrift store, the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack is amazing. And if it's not something you're familiar with, just give it a go, guys. It's worth your time. It's fun, especially if you're into kind of like pop, kind of punk, early 2000s stuff. They play a lot with that kind of sound, even though it was 1993. It's very similar to that. And it's just diverse. Plus, I mean, Marilyn Manson's on it, so that's always a fun time. Now, the next song I'm going to talk about is something that I don't know why it's gotten a resurgence, and I'm curious to see if Tim knows about Spooky Scary Skeletons by Andrew Gold from 1996.
No, this is not a Halloween song that I'm familiar with.
So the reason I'm familiar with it is I'm going to do a background. So apparently when it was originally released, it was ignored. Like, nobody knew what it was. It was just this song for children called Spooky Scary Skeletons. And it had some big chart success went in 2010 because Disney Skeleton Dance was out. I don't know what Disney Skeleton Dance was. And then someone re-uploaded it on YouTube and used the Spooky Skeleton song. And now it's been kind of done in like dubsteps and like different things. And it goes, spooky, spooky skeletons, run shivers down my spine. And so then it's like over all these kind of EDM and like it's everywhere's now. You can't like hear, if you went into Spirit Halloween, not that Tim would ever do that, but if you went into Spirit Halloween in America, it would be playing. And I'm kind of curious that you haven't heard it, but it's not surprising at the same time you haven't.
No, I think there's a Spirit Halloween in Christiansburg this year. And I said to Hannah, I definitely want to go in Spirit Halloween because I've never been in one. I've got no intention of buying anything. I was just curious.
So I have to go every year, even though I literally never buy anything there. But you do need to go because they have like little setups inside the store. Like, so there's one in Christiansburg and there's one in Bradford. So we went to the one in Bradford and they have like a little fake, like, you're walking through a haunted house and things pop at you and they have like little setups inside the store on top of just selling all the costumes.
Interesting.
And it's funny because the way it has transcended over time is so funny. So for those who don't know, around America, around Halloween time, we have these pop-up stores. They're only there for like 2 to 3 months and then they disappear and they're called Spirit Halloween. And it's where you get the generic vinyl costumes, right, Tim, that everybody knows. And sometimes you get some cool stuff and a lot of decorations. And they're actually part of the store Spencer's. Spencer's used to be known as Spencer's and Spencer's Gifts. Now it's just Spencer's, but they're an offspring of that. And I remember when they first started, they weren't as big as they are now. And over time, they've gotten bigger. Now they're like a Halloween tradition in America to go to Spencer's or go to Spirit Halloween. But back when they first started, before they had the rights to music, they were playing what I would call those like the best of blah, blah, blah. The
they're like generic.
Singers. And you would hear like the weirdest version of Thriller's Michael Jackson or Spooky Skeletons you've ever heard. And now, because they've become popular and money has been put into them, Tim, they can buy the actual music when you go in them. And it's just funny because I've seen it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen the trends over time, like just how it's become actual real music. That's how you know they're making money, guys.
Absolutely. It's a very interesting business model where they have all this inventory that they just sell for 3 months. And they, like Joy says, they find disused shop fronts, set it all up. We're in business for 3 months, tear it all down, then disappear again until Halloween.
And it's just a pop-up shop, really. But think about it. If they're selling certain costumes, Tim, they can hold on to a lot of that merchandise and they'll just sell again next year.
Sure, but I'm sure they're very keen with their ordering. So there's probably
I'm sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I was going to say, if you go into a Spencer's, that inventory, they're just putting it into the Spencer's stores, selling it all. Yeah. They don't sell at Spirit. Because it fits the vibe, you know what I mean? That kind of like pop punk vibe that they're going for. But anyway, that's my theory, Tim. I've seen them transcend over time and like actually make money, and now they can actually pay Michael Jackson money to get the real Thriller. All right. So this is one that I have very funny memories of that I'll explain in a minute. But this is Witch Doctor by the cartoons from 1998. Are you familiar with Witch Doctor, Tim?
Yes, another one that appears on Wacky Weirdos.
There you go. So I have a very distinct memory. So though the song really wasn't necessarily about Halloween, it does say ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ting, tang, wada, wub. And then it talks about I saw the witch doctor. And it's funny because, and I don't know why Charlie was so serious about this, but Brandy, my twin sister, has been on the podcast, and Charlie got in an argument about whether it said ting, tang. And there was like a whole thing, and Charlie got very upset that Brandy didn't know that it said ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ting, tang, and there was a full force argument in my house one day about if it actually said ting, tang, big bang. But I don't know why nobody, I mean, somebody Googled it and Charlie proved his point, but that stands out to me. I don't think I've ever thought about the song till then, but there you go. That's what I think of when I think of the Witch Doctor song. So there you go, guys. Other than that, I have no idea where the song came from and why it's about a witch doctor.
Well, there you go.
So this is controversially Halloween song. I feel like it's on everybody's Halloween playlist. Whether it was written about Halloween is debatable, but it's Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell from 1984.
Yes, so Rockwell was Berry Gordy of Motown fame's grandson.
Kennedy Gordy.
Yeah. So he, some would say nepotism, that he was pushed into the spotlight and given this very good song. I don't think he wrote it, but it famously features Michael Jackson on backing vocals.
And you know what's sad? So Michael's doing the backing vocals on the chorus. I feel like I listened to this for so long before I knew that fact. And I'm like, that really sounds like Michael Jackson. And then, like, I mean, I found out later on in life, but I feel like I listened to the song long before I ever was told that was Michael, which makes no sense because it's Berry Gordy. But obviously, the song's about somebody watching you, and if your father is Berry Gordy, somebody is probably watching you at all times. So
yeah, so
that's my piece on that, Tim.
Yeah, so I was wrong. He was the son of Berry Gordy. I thought he was the grandson, but he was the son of Berry Gordy. Now
I just knew his name was Kennedy.
Yeah, Rockwell, or Kennedy Gordy, he actually did write the song.
I mean, I'm just saying he should have some real introspect. If my father was the Motown founder, I feel like I would feel that way too, Tim.
Absolutely.
I mean, there is something to be said about feeling like someone's always, because the feeling of someone watching you is a very distinct thing that I feel like everybody could relate to. And so it's such a good thing to put in a song because then you invoke that feeling in everyone. It's genius music writing. Sure.
And then you slap Michael Jackson on it. So,
well, that in and of itself, you got to hit, buddy. Anyway, but it's perfect for an unsettling feeling around October. I don't know anybody who's got somebody's already always watching me. Like, that's not on their Halloween playlist. All right. So I have one more song, and then I have a procession of questions that I'm going to throw at Tim that he probably doesn't want, but that's not related. All right.
There we go.
So, the last one is one of my favorites and will probably be talked about for longer than any of the other songs. This is from the Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975, The Time Warp.
There we are. Now, this is a film, unsurprisingly, I've never seen.
But you know the song.
I'm very familiar with The Time Warp, and I've played The Time Warp in a band as well.
Well, the good thing about this is, Tim, anybody who's ever seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show doesn't know what it's about either because none of it makes any sense. It is all chaotic, and that's the point. So you're not too far off if you've never seen it because people don't know either. But just to kind of give you the summary, a couple on the road, Jan and her husband, Brad, they break down and they go to this big mansion. Well, there's and they ask for help because their car broke down. It's pouring rain, yada, yada. And there's a transsexual from Transylvania in there, and the rest is history. And it just kind of chaotic from there. At one point, if you watch the movie, Meatloaf is riding a motorcycle, goes off the side of the house and kills himself while singing. It's something, Tim. Nobody knows what it's about, actually. But that's the basics of it.
So sounds like a mess to me, but there you go.
But it's so fun though because if you've never went to a Rocky Horror Picture Show, this is what happens in real life. If someone says they're going to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so they play the movie and then people act it out in front of them, which I know Tim knows, and there's callbacks in the audience. So like Brad's name, you say something. Jan's name, you say something. It's more of an interactive experience, kind of like, you know, when musicians make their stadium songs, Tim, to get the audience to interact with them. Even if it's not the grandiose song, it's for that interaction.
Sure.
That's what Rocky Horror Picture is. And so now it's become a cult classic. Also, let's do the Time Warp again. It tells you the steps of the song, and everybody likes a good line dance.
Yeah, jump to the left.
It's quirky. It's got some science, and it's a science fiction picture show is what they call it. All right. I don't know what that means. Do you know what a science fiction show is? Science fiction picture show?
That genre eludes me, but I'm happy that it is.
All right, Tim. Was there any Halloween songs you think we forgot on this list?
I mean,
songs that you would associate with Halloween?
This is a pretty exhaustive list. When we had Halloween here last year, I put together a playlist, and a lot of the songs that you mentioned are actually on there. I think you probably covered all the bases, including Thriller, of course.
Exactly. So the reason I bring up a Halloween, and maybe I have a very distinct feeling about it, is if you know me, you know that I take my Halloween costumes very seriously.
Yep.
If you've followed me for a long time, I've already started working on my one for this year, Tim. It might be my greatest creation. So take that with a grain of salt. I have already got Inexpensive. Last year, I was an inflatable balloon animal, aka a dog. That was inflatable balloon animal.
Yep.
I've been inflatable Pikachu. I was the mystery machine that was hand built one year. And the list. One time, I put myself into a golden snitch from Harry Potter, which I don't know if Tim knows what that means, but I was basically a giant gold ball that was built around me, and that costume was so bad. So we threw a Halloween Harry Potter themed party one year. And I was like, everybody else was doing classic like Harry Potter costumes. I was like, well, you know me, I can't do a classic Harry Potter costume. I have to go next level. So instead of dressing up like one of the characters, in like when he's doing Quidditch, there's a golden snitch he can catch. It's just a tiny little gold ball. And if you catch that ball, you win the whole game. And that's separate of the beaters, which they hit to get the points. Tim's like, wow. His eyes are glossing over. But anyway, so the point of this is I made myself the ball. So I had to make myself a gold ball. And then I had like little wings. And so we bought like wire. And we built the wire around me to make me into the ball. And then we took like gold fabric and wrapped it around the ball. Does that make sense, Tim? And then made my arms so I have wings. That was so uncomfortable. I was so done. I think I almost felt like 7 times. And all I got was like 4 pictures of me. And I'm like, this is so stupid. I hate this. Just take this off me and get me a drink. But I nailed it. I got like 4 pictures out of it. And vice versa. I'm trying to think of it. There was one year. I swear to you, everybody thinks I'm lying when I tell them this story about Halloween. But this happened, Tim. This is a real life story. I ran out. I was very late on picking out my costume that year. It was just a busy year. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So I ran out to the Spirit Halloween, as we were talking about earlier, and picked the most generic costume ever. I made myself a piece of bacon because I wanted it to be fun, but I didn't. Like, it was like one of the last costumes on the shelf. You know what I'm saying, Tim?
Yeah.
Because we got invited to a Halloween party. Well, at said costumes, I mean, it was a full piece of bacon, like head to toe bacon. And so I'm like shuffling around this piece of bacon. A banana comes in. Guy was dressed as a banana, head to toe banana, and it was the same type of costume. Well, later that night, substances were taken, and by substances, I mean people were drinking. It was a party. People were having fun, and somehow me and the banana got shoved in the middle of the dance floor. And we were dancing as a piece of bacon and a banana like this. Not that anybody can see my arms. They can see me. I don't see my arms. And there were people going, bacon, bacon, banana. So the Halloween costumes are iconic. I still live rent free in everybody's head. The first Halloween costume I did was Pikachu, giant Pikachu.
Yep,
then I was an
that.
inflatable avocado. Then I was the mystery machine.
I remember that too.
Mostly I did this episode so I could talk about my Halloween costumes, if anybody was wondering. So this year's is going to be even more iconic, and we're going to have to put it on the Facebook so everybody can see. Now, I will say, Tim, I will give you a hint. It may be a much larger inflatable this year that I have been peering at and had to put on payment because it was so expensive. All right, Tim. Well, that's what we're going to leave the people with. And if you guys have never been to a party where they push bacon and a banana in the middle and did a dance around them, you've never been to a party. All right, what do you want to leave the people with?
If you live in the United States...
Colt all over again. Blue Ulster Colt.
Make sure you are registered to vote. And also there are some early voting locations that are opening up probably as you are hearing this. So make sure you do that. And also be kind to everybody that you meet.
And have a happy and safe Halloween. Bye.
Bye.